Now let's go back to our theory, which is more than a theory, it's a biblical truth. So the more that you know about the glory and the beauty and the splendor of Christ, the more you know about the price that He paid on that tree, the more power, motivation, zeal you will have to give your life away. People who have made an extraordinary mark in Christian history, they have not done so because they were born better than you or born again better than you. I mean, James clears that up. Even the greatest figures in the Old Testament were of like nature with us. We see their failures, sometimes extraordinary failures. Then why is it that some people just seem to give more? I believe there's only one reason. They've seen more. They've seen more. More of what? More of who Christ is and what Christ has done and what Christ is preparing. That's it. And that's the job of the preacher. And that's the job of the individual Christian when they study the Bible. I used to hear this so often. You know, when you're reading your Bible, you read your chapter of the day, and the first thing you should ask is, what is this saying about me? That's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. No, what is it saying about God? What is it saying about Christ? What is it revealing to me? You see, this is what I want you to see. If I were to get up right now and preach an hour-long sermon on how you don't love God as you ought to, your response, if you're a sincere Christian, should be, well, yeah. Thank you. I knew that. Thank you very much. Now I feel worse. And that's what preachers do, don't they? You don't love God enough. Yeah, there's my problem. You hit it on the head. Now could you keep going and tell me what I'm supposed to do? Because I'm tired. So what do people do? They run off to a conference or to some extraordinary preacher. And what happens? They get all excited. Man, they are so full of the music is amazing. They're so full of the love of God. And then after 3 days, what happens? They're right back where they started. But this time they're even more bitter. There just seems to be no escape. And all the promises of all those flashy preachers on the platform, they didn't work. And you're like just stuck there. What do I do? You're like, you go to these meetings and they wind you up like a toy. And man, you come out of there, you're like this, and then eventually you're right back where you started from. How do you make yourself love God more? How do you do that? Well, first of all, to have the capacity to love God, you must truly be Christian. But if you are truly Christian, even then, there will be a struggle. So how do you do it? Well, let me give you a lesson in physics. So let's say that I'm laying on the ground, on my back, and I've got both hands on my belt, like this, and I'm pulling with all my might. And you come in and you go, Brother Paul, what are you doing? And I say, well, I'm trying to get up. You say, well, you didn't really ever study physics, did you? Well, what do you mean? If you're going to get up that way, you must be acted upon by an outside force. You can't pull yourself up by your own belt or bootstraps. You have to be acted upon by an outside force. Okay? Now let's think about this. You see a man who has an extraordinary passion for his wife. I mean, you've never seen a guy like this. He is the most devoted man you have ever met. He is devoted, he is passionate. It's extraordinary. What do you think when you see that kind of man? What do you think? You think about the man, don't you? That's because you're an idolater. You think about the man. What a wonderful man. I mean, this man is a man of men. I mean, I've never seen a man. Women are going, why can't you be like him? Do you see that? I mean, he's just extraordinary. We think he is extraordinary. Maybe he's not extraordinary. Maybe he's not even normal. Maybe he's subnormal. Well, then how does he do this? Maybe he's being acted upon by an outside force. Maybe it's not him who's extraordinary, it's his wife. That his wife is so extraordinary, so beautiful, so full of virtue, that she draws out. This man is a brute. He's like a stump, a log. She is so extraordinary that she draws out his affections. He can't help but love her. Now, don't use this, men, as blaming your wife for why you're such a stump. So it's not him at all. It's this other extraordinary person. So you see a Christian and they seem to have an extraordinary love and an extraordinary zeal for God. And what do you think? You immediately worship the man or the woman, don't you? Oh, they're extraordinary. They're different than me. Do you see that? You got to see this. Well, maybe they're not extraordinary. Maybe they're not even normal. Maybe on a scale, they're below you. But they've been acted upon by an outside force. They've seen something you haven't seen. And it's that beauty and virtue and wisdom and wonder. There's something you better get back in your theology or just stop preaching. The wonder of him that just takes hold of that heart and draws out its affection and controls it. Do you see that? So you don't need to tighten yourself all up and wind yourself all up and become an extraordinary person. You need to climb up a little higher and get a better view of an extraordinary God.